Howdy folks, this is Big Sam. Today we're going to be going over an in-depth buyer's guide of the Mosin Nagant PU sniper rifle. Now this is one of the coolest and most desirable collector's firearms on the market right now. And in part it's just because it's a sniper rifle. People really seem to like sniper rifles. They're just cool. There's something enamoring about them. But when I started my interest in these rifles, I had a really hard time understanding how to tell if one is real or fake. I watched a lot of YouTube videos on this, but I ended up leaving just more confused than when I started. And I couldn't find any good resources until I discovered the website of Alexander Yushchenko. Now, in my opinion, Alex is the foremost authority on the 9130 rifle in the world, including its sniper variants. And I'll be putting a link in the description where you can go check out his website, because he has some really awesome information on there that I think you're going to want to see. He has a lot of other good info on just markings and other stuff, and a lot of the research and videos we've done on the 9130 rifle come straight from his research. He's written books about these rifles. He's one of the only people that I think knows enough to even write any sort of literature on these rifles. So I'm really grateful for all of his research, and you can go check him out and support him, buy some of his books, or support him on Patreon. Now, because of his research, I can bring you some really helpful information on these rifles and help you make an informed decision about purchasing a rifle and understand if it's real or fake. Now, I have 3 rifles here today. These 3 are going to be your best bets to find the easiest way to find an original PU sniper rifle. But these aren't the only ones. This is just the easiest ones to find. To know right off the bat that, oh yeah, it's a real rifle. Now, before we get into some of the markings and looking at each one of these rifles, if you only leave with one piece of information, leave with this. The PU sniper rifle was not produced until October of 1942. So if you come across a PU sniper rifle made before 1942, it's a fake. Likewise, if it has a hex receiver, all of these have round receivers. If it has a hex receiver, you automatically know it's a fake because the hex receiver was produced until 1936. So that's going to be your single most helpful piece of information, and it's going to cross off a lot of PU snipers off your list, because you're automatically going to be able to look at it and say, oh no, that's fake. Unfortunately, the majority of the rifles on the market right now are fake. So hopefully this is going to help y'all get a better understanding of what's real and what's not. So let's start taking a closer look with this one closest to you, this Tula X sniper rifle. Alrighty, so here's our first one on the deck. This is a really pretty looking Tula 9130 X sniper rifle. Now, if you're not familiar with an X sniper rifle, it's actually really simple. This is an original PU sniper rifle that, after the war, the Soviets just took the sniper scope off, as well as the mount, filled in the holes, and reissued this as a standard infantry rifle. Now, this one has a beautiful laminated stock we can see here. Now, I can show you the plugged holes. You can see that right here. See that? There used to be a hole there, but it was filled in. Now, that was the main screw hole. These are actually still threaded. And a lot of people like to convert these back into original sniper rifles. And it's great because you can actually use the original threads to retrofit a PU scope on here. So this, if you're looking for an easy way to find a real PU sniper rifle, this is great because you can see here this is a real sniper rifle. It has those old holes, and these are going to be your cheapest option for getting an original sniper rifle. Let's say maybe you don't have all the cash right now to go spend on one of these original sniper rifles. Well, you can just buy one of these, and then when you have the cash, you can add additional funds later in, buying and mounting the scope system on here.
So if that sounds like something you're interested in, this might be a really good option for you. You can easily find these guns for under $600 US in 2022 here in America, and sometimes even cheaper, because sometimes people don't even realize that the Mosin they're selling is an ex-sniper rifle. Now, one other thing I want to mention here, there's actually supposed to be another hole, but you don't see it on this gun, and that's because on the Tula rifles, it's a blind hole. There's an additional pinhole on this side and over here as well, but you don't see an extra hole there. You just see the two holes. That's because on the Tula rifles, these were blind holes. They didn't drill all the way through for the pins. They only did that on the Izhevsk rifles, and we'll see that here in a second. So if you see an original Tula rifle that has the PU scope on it, and you know, based off of the markings, which we'll look at here, you know it's a real PU sniper, but it has that hole there, then you know that this was an ex-sniper that someone retrofitted. Because a lot of times people just drill all the way through. It's a lot easier, because then you end up having that back in the deep in that hole, a lot of metal shavings and other stuff, and it's just kind of a pain. So it can be easier to just drill all the way through. But if you see that, now you know that's an ex-sniper rifle that somebody converted. But again, that's only for a Tula rifle. Now let's go ahead and look at the barrel markings here, because this is where things get really cool. All right, so we see we've got a 1943 rifle. We know it's a Tula because we have this big O star here above the date. The two markings, there's tons of markings on this, okay? None of these are really going to be that helpful for you on a Tula, except these two markings up here. See that? There's a C and an H. That means, according to Alexander Yushchenko's research, that the Tula factory had separate barrel production for sniper rifles, for the PU snipers. And these two letters, the C and the H, indicate this is a barrel produced in that separate assembly process, aka a sniper grade barrel. And this is something that we just wouldn't have known if it wasn't for someone in Russia actually doing the deep dive into the research. So I'm really grateful for that. Now, one other thing, and Tulas are great because they're actually easier to identify as real, because the Tula factory used two-letter Cyrillic prefixes specifically for sniper rifles. So if you find a Tula 9130 rifle produced in 1943, and it has an AM prefix, you already know that it's a sniper rifle, because normal rifles, 9130 rifles, would not use the same serial number prefixes that the sniper rifles would for the Tula factory during World War II. That's pretty interesting. Now, if you want a full list, basically a full list, Alex admits that it's probably over 90% of all the known serial number prefixes for Tula sniper rifles from 1943, 1942, and 1944. Go check out his website, and I'll post a link in the description where you can see that full list of known serial number prefixes. Now, if you have a rifle that has a prefix, or you're looking at a rifle and the prefix is not in that list, it's probably a fake. It's not 100%, but it's well over 90% sure it's fake. So that list can be really helpful. So again, Tulas are really helpful. Look for the C and the H, and then you can double check by checking the serial number prefix on Alex's website for Tulas. And he also gives you some really cool information on production numbers, which is something I know a lot of y'all are interested in. Okay, so that's our ex-sniper rifle. Go ahead and close this guy back up, and then let's take a look at our next rifle. All right, so our next rifle here is, as you can see, it's a PU sniper. This guy was produced, let's take a look at the barrel markings, in 1944 by the Izhevsk factory. Now we can tell it's the Izhevsk factory because we see that arrow and a triangle right there. Now, if you're looking at a PU sniper and you see this marking on the top, let me flick this over so you can see it a little better. See how it says R guns right here? R guns right on the top. Not on the side, on the top. That's a really good sign. So if you see that, that means this came from a known batch of rifles that that are original and used to be Ukrainian police sniper rifles. Okay, but it has to have that marking on the top. Sometimes you'll see our guns rifles, and this is kind of known. Let me get my camera to focus here. Sorry. It's kind of known, so sometimes you might see people trying to pass it off as an our guns, but on the normal 9130 rifles, our guns would put that marking on the left side here on the chamber, not on the top, on the left side. So it has to be on the top. That's the only type of rifle you see that marking on. So already if you see that, then you know that it's an original PU sniper rifle. Now you'll see that marking on both Izhevsk and Tulas, but again, Tulas are a lot rarer and they're actually easier to identify. So I think the Tulas are pretty desirable in that respect. But the Izhevsk are still really neat as well. And I'll show you one reason here in a second why. So this is one way to just right off the bat tell if it's real. Another one is going to be from this guy up here. This guy is known as a Samco sniper. Now we've done some videos on these before. These were actually given to the Yugoslavian partisans probably in 1944 as war aid essentially from the Soviet Union, because they were helping the Soviets fight off the Nazis. Now, what you'll see is on the barrel, if I can get a good, right under here, it'll say, under the barrel, it'll say Samco. If you see that, you know that it's an original PU sniper. You can see this one is, the stock has not really been refurbished. You can see all these dings on it. Unlike this one, this is kind of your standard looking refurbished one. Now, one other cool thing here, it's really hard to see, and this is not a well-known fact. See under this sling swivel, or this dog collar, see there's this little piece of metal here. This is what we call an escutcheon, it's hiding. But you'll also see that up here. Now, typically on 9130 rifles, you'll only see that escutcheon at the front. Here's another cool tidbit that we learned from Alex's research. This little rear metal insert, this escutcheon right here, they only added that to sniper stocks. So only sniper rifles would get that escutcheon. And since nobody really knows that, you don't have to worry about that as being a fake. So if you see that, that's a good sign. But if you don't see that, it doesn't really mean anything, because a lot of times they just got replacement stocks. And sometimes they'll have the later type stock as well. So just something other to look for there. That's a really interesting little tidbit. Okay, now if we turn this guy over, I'm going to show you something really cool. Why would you want an Izhevsk? Well, the Izhevsks are cool. They're more common, but they're really neat because they put the original serial number of the scope on all of them. Okay, so you can see here, this one got crossed out, which is relatively common, especially on the X snipers, you'll see that. And a new one was added here. And this 33102 matches this guy, 33102. Okay, so if you see this, what you want to see on an Izhevsk is typically a serial number. Now, sometimes these were just ground off entirely. So, another thing to look for when looking at a sniper rifle is it'll usually be here on this side. It'll be a K within a circle marking. That is a standard accuracy proof mark, and you should see that on a normal, like, wartime 9130 rifle. If you see that rifle, or see that marking, excuse me, that K in a circle on an Izhevsk PU sniper, it is a fake. That marking is not present on the Izhevsk PU snipers. What they have instead is this marking, this C within a circle right here. That is basically the Izhevsk equivalent of our C and an H marking on our Tula rifles. That is what we'd call an accuracy marking, a sniper grade barrel marking, however you want to phrase it. That is a very good sign. You want to see that. Now, starting out in the middle of 1943 and 1944, generally that marking's up here on the right front side of the barrel shank. And before the middle of 1943, it can be on the left side. but that can vary a little bit. That's just kind of a general rule of thumb. Okay, so what's cool about these, again, is a lot of times you'll actually be able to tell what the original serial number of the scope was, and sometimes from that you can actually infer who made that scope. Sometimes, but it can be hard. Generally, what's helpful is if it has like a prefix, because a lot of the scope serial numbers will have a serial number prefix. Now this one doesn't look like it did. It looks like it's just 80232. Let's look at our other guy though, because this guy is an Ijevs, so he will also have a serial number. And we can see that right here. Now see, there's our prefix. That's a Cyrillic B as in Bravo, 30223. Okay, so we actually know the manufacturer of this, which is cool. Now, because this is a Samco, on the Samcos, you will not see these markings crossed out ever. And also on the Samcos, you should see this little etched, this is just the serial number of the rifle on the left side of the receiver here. We can see there's our serial number. Okay. And again, since this is also a 1944, we see our accuracy marking right there. Check it out. There's no K and a circle marking on this guy. Now, I've seen videos saying, well, you need to look at the front sight because they had a taller front sight, or you need to look at the way the stock's cut out. Not really. So that can actually confuse you more. Here's why. If we turn this guy around and we look at this stock, look how like roughly this looks cut out here, right? And the top of this isn't refinished. It really looks like someone did this in their garage. This doesn't look like extremely nicely done. In comparison, if we look at our Samco, this looks a lot nicer. See that? So if you look at this, and just by going off of the stock, you might say, oh, this is fake. But we know it's not, because this gun is absolutely 100% correct and original. It actually has that original sniper escutcheon at the back. So that can just confuse you more. I wouldn't look at the stock cutout, because again, the stocks can, it just depends on the day of the week and who did it. Also, the stocks can be replaced, so they may not be able to tell you that useful amounts of information. So the things to look for, again, let's say, okay, we're approaching a sniper rifle. What's the first thing you look for? Well, before you can even look at the date, you can tell, is it a hex receiver? No, it's not a hex receiver, so that's a good sign. The next thing we look at is the date, right? So we say here, okay, it's a 1944, that's correct, so it could be a PU sniper. Then we see our accuracy marking, awesome, that's exactly what we want to see. And we also see our serial number marking for the scope, which again, you won't always see. But if you see that, that's a really good sign. Now, sometimes this can be a bit tricky because you may not be able to see any serial number or the accuracy marking. So what happens if you can't see either of those? But you also don't see that K in a circle marking necessarily. Well, if you don't see either the serial number of the scope on an Ijevs rifle or the accuracy marking, I probably wouldn't buy it, okay? Now, you can go ahead and look up on Alex's website the serial number prefix, so you can look up 1944 Ijevs 9130 PU sniper rifles with the KX, and that'll tell you if that is a known prefix for PU snipers or not. If it is, though, on Ijevs rifles, again, it doesn't really tell you that much. What tells you a lot more is if that prefix is not on there. So this is not the best way to tell if it's real, but this is a good way to tell if it's fake. If the serial number prefix is not in Alex's list on his website, you pretty much know it's fake. If it is there, well, then you need to do a little bit more digging on the markings. One other thing is, and let me go ahead and sit this down for a second. I'm going to open the bolt on this guy. Right in here. Another thing you can check for is, and sometimes it can be hard to see, we might look here, you can look on the inside of the threads, because you can see a few of the threads, and look and see if it's all shiny in there. If that looks like shiny and brand new, this one does not really look like that. It kind of looks like that on camera, but this is dark. If this looks shiny and newly drilled out, that probably either means it's a fake or it's a converted PU X sniper rifle. We can see here that this is all like refinished. So that means that when this gun was refurbished at the arsenal, this hole was present. That's good. Because on the fakes, and again, you can see this on retrofitted X snipers, but on the fakes, these holes were drilled well after the refurbishment. So that's probably, somebody could have touched it up, but it's probably not going to be blued. So that's one other thing to look for. Okay, so it's actually pretty simple, right? This is not that bad. On Tulas, you look for that C and an H, and you can check. These are dedicated prefixes, which tells you either, yes, it is a sniper rifle, or no, it's not a sniper rifle. Yezhev's rifles are going to have this accuracy marking. Sometimes it's over here on 1943s and 42s. This can vary, and sometimes this can be really hard to see. So in conjunction with this, you want to make sure that it either has the scope serial number or at one point did. Sometimes you'll see grinding marks. Sometimes you'll see a little flattening out here on the side where it should be kind of rounded. So just you really want to pay attention to that. If you don't see that, or if you see that K in a circle marking, it's a fake. That's it. That's all you got to look for. You don't have to look at the stock. You don't have to look at the rear sight. You don't have to look at any of that. That's all you really need to do in order to tell if it's real or fake. So I tried to condense that as much as possible, but there's a few things to go over. So if y'all still have questions, go ahead and email me. But see, guys, it's not that bad, and these guns are really, really cool.
Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was pretty cool getting to take a look at some of these guns. These are really cool guns, and I hope you enjoyed it. And hopefully, now you have a much better idea of what to look for and what not to look for, as well as being able to make a more informed decision with your valuable, hard-earned money. So thank you guys for watching. Go ahead and email me. I have an email in the description of this video. If you have any additional questions, or if you come across a gun that you're just not sure about, I'm happy to give you my opinion on it. Let me know if y'all have any prayer requests, and we'll see you next time.